Welcome, beautiful humans. This is Vicky Spray with Embracing Humans. Embracing humans because it's time we do so. Wouldn't you say? It's time to embrace humans. So today I want to talk about a prayer that some would call an intention. And the title of it is The Power of Please Help Me. Please help me. But first, let's do a meditation. Short, sweet, and real. Just give yourself a few moments to just be still and just be quiet. Go into the breath. Fill the lungs. Allow the energy of these words to go inside your heart and go inside your mind as the world and its chaos goes away. And when you come back out of the meditation to hear the rest of these words, you've aligned with that true self, that self that is able to hear spirit and hear your soul. So here we go. Of course, if you're driving, pull over or just be open to the words. The energy of these words can go inside of you with your eyes open while driving. And you can still be very conscious of everything else you're doing. So here we go. Going into the breath. Allowing the quiet, allowing the breath to convey to the body that it is safe. With each breath, your mind understands that its only job is to focus on the breath. Let it be so. I am open and I am willing. I am open and I am willing to hear spirit, to know that I am seen and I am known and I am understood by spirit. I am open and I am willing to move beyond the level of understanding that I have been traveling on. I am open and I am willing to let just a little bit more or a whole lot more of the false self that I picked up and created in the early ages of my earthly incarnation to dissolve. I am open and I am willing for the maturity and the new understanding and the depth of truth to come forward. I am open and I am willing to experience myself as a spirit being, eternal and infinite. I am open and I am willing to travel through time and space as a spirit being. I open myself to the wisdom that is within me, the wisdom that no harm or trauma or human experience can touch. I am willing to know that it is there, to trust it, to embrace the truth of how it looks at me, the human Vicky, the human me. I am open and I am willing. The name I've been given, the gender I've been given, the life that I have experienced, I put aside for just a little while. I am open and I am willing. And so it is, and so it will be. Yea and amen. My clients laugh at me because I end my beginning meditations when we have a session together with yay and amen. It's actually something that I've done for many, many years, and it's a laugh between us. So the power, and that's an interesting word because people are uncomfortable with the word power. We won't be in the future, but we still kind of are, because what powerful people have done, influential people have done with that power. But we've had many teachers come before us who understand that real power is always in service to others. That's what real power does. It serves others. And we still get to have a wonderful life. The teachers that are teaching power get to have a wonderful life. So when I first started my counseling practice, my spiritual counseling practice, my own journey took a heck of a dive into a growth as I became a witness to the lives of the humans sitting on my couch. I probably will repeat in almost every video I do how much I gained and how much I continue to gain from my clients, because I listen to their stories, and yes, I recognize that they're still in the story of human and all that occurred and their interpretation of what occurred. But in between their words is this power, the spiritual power that moves things in their behalf. And I get to see it from the viewpoint of the spiritual counselor. I see that a net of safety was put underneath them when there was a breakup, and that when things broke loose, there were people there, and books there, and videos there, and songs there, and the late night, and their sorrow and despair. I get to see how money showed up out of nowhere. I get to see how all this was occurring when my clients were completely oblivious to all of it, as I was for most of my life. I hear the stories and I recognize that there's a constant thread of support there. I also had a dream. I'll never forget this dream. It was some friends of mine, and they were just going about their daily life. I could see their house, I could see their yard, I could see their driveway, and they were just going about their daily life. And I was watching them as though I was seeing them through the eyes of spirit. And they were so loved. They were so loved. And they were completely oblivious to this love. And it made me see my own life in the same way. Me going about my own life, do. Paying bills, driving, interacting, seeing clients, being with my loved one, petting my dog's head, gardening, do what I do. All while I was not just loved, but adored. I'll be honest with you, I haven't quite gotten there yet where I know that every minute of the day. I don't. But when I do, and when I look at my people, my humans, I call them my humans, the ones that have been brought into my sphere of influence, and I see the chess pieces being moved for their behalf, just to keep them alive sometimes, just to keep them alive long enough for maybe their soul to get ahead of their human mind, enough so that there's more attraction from spirit than there is the 3D. Just keep them alive long enough in this lifetime. There will be plenty of other lifetimes, but what I'm seeing right now is this lifetime. So being a spiritual counselor and now a medium, I actually have one hell of an advantage because I see it all the time now. I am being fed all the time. I'm like a Pilates instructor who gets to do Pilates all day long. Something that I know is that when we begin to acknowledge the help that we are actually receiving from Spirit, faith is transformed into wisdom. Belief is turned into knowledge. Uncertainty moves into certainty of our connection to the universe and each other. Beneath the surface of our lives, all of this is going on. That growth, that maturation, that healing. Humans are living in a time when we are going through a spiritual maturity, as I will continue to talk about, and it's chaotic and it's uncertain and it's real. And I get to see it and I get to share it with you. I get to drop the seeds of your already burgeoning knowing of that. You're already belief in that. You're already hope in that. You're already trust in that. These videos are just watering that which is already inside of you. This spiritual maturity, it is usually gained by the challenges of the physical. And it is to help the fortress of the self we've built to crumble, it being the challenges of living. No matter who you are, you're being challenged by being a human. No matter how much money you have, no matter how much influence you have, no matter what, you are being challenged on some level. Every single one of us are being challenged. And the fortress of the unconscious tools to get love crumbles. That fortress that we built, like to protect our hearts and hope that we get love, crumbling. That unconscious behavior that we've done in order to try to get our goodies, and that by using the tools of go get it and do it and let's go after it and let's appease and let's turn ourselves into a pretzel and let's do for other people so that we can get some love, crumbling. All of it is crumbling. Friends, crumbling. Love's crumbling. There's a fortress there. There's a dependence there. There's an idol there. There's a It is built on very sandy ground. And I'll keep repeating that as well, because we need to hear that. The human mind thinks that we can just build another fortress, by golly, and then we'll be okay. And it's not going to happen. We're living in a time where it is essential for the fortress to crumble. That fortress was built on sand. It was built on illusion. It was built on a mirage. And yes, it's defined as shadow work. Okay, all right, it's shadow work. But let me just say that shadow work is simply becoming aware of the false self we created to survive being in the physical, to survive being human. That's all this is. Shadow work is about realizing that we are not separate from spirit or from one another. It's not just digging into the crud or our issues. Shadow work was created through a broken heart and a fragmented mind. It needs respect. It needs to be honored. It's sacred. And it has a goal. Shadow work is looking into what our culture told us to believe. We all know that. What our family told us to believe. We all know that. What our mind told us to believe. Not so much. We don't know that so much yet. We're getting it. That the mind created our self that has to crumble. Shadow work is looking at the false self and realizing that it was an illusion and that it worked for a while and then it became obsolete, or it needs to become obsolete. Every single time I drive around and I see these wires in the sky for communication, etc., they look so, it's almost like a dinosaur. It's so, it feels like it's obsolete, but we're not there yet. We're getting there, but we're not there yet. There's still wires strung from wooden poles so humans can communicate and transfer information. The same way with our old tools, our old ways of thinking. If we don't allow the obsolete to go away and we cling to the old, we are stuck and we are in pain. And we certainly are not moving into the brightness of who we are. And that the soul hurts. The soul came here to play this game big time. Full on. The false self cannot hold up to the scrutiny of spirit. And that's the pain, isn't it? That the old self is resistant to the new. That's the clash, that's the pain. Resistance is always the pain. We're wired to resist, and yet we have to give up resistance. We will always be required to bump the game up. Humans are always invited to experience the truth of who we are. Every lifetime. We create the false self from an interpretation of experience. Think about that. I really want you to think about that. It's not the experience. It's the interpretation of experience. So the child has an experience. Let's just say she has a crayon and she loves the color orange. And she sees a wall that's in let's just say, the kitchen wall, where it's rather clear from a 3-foot level, because she's 3 feet tall, 2 feet tall, 3 feet tall. And she knows instinctively how good that orange would look against that color that is of the kitchen wall. And so she starts drawing on it. And then let's just say that we have a tall human whom has not discovered her beauty and her amazing magnificence yet. And she's living in a patriarchy. And she was hurt when she was a child and hasn't known how to heal that. And she's trying to get all of her goodies met by doing something like placating everybody else. And she sees her daughter with that crayon, that orange, against that wall of the color she picked. And she loses her mind. And some will lose their mind in different ways, but let's just say that the child gets yelled at, and which every child has, because we have humans as parents. But that child gets yelled at, the interpretation of that experience is going to be different from child to child, but there's going to be a tendency to really, really internalize that mistake as something being wrong with them. And unless the tall person mother does knows how to reconcile that, then a trauma has been born. And that's all okay too, because it will be worked out. The child will grow up and the child will remember that moment perhaps, or the cellular memory of that will bring forth a desire to heal. And she will, because humans are going to heal. We are moving toward healing in ways we've never had before. But the interpretation of the experience is what matters. The child is normally going to say there's something wrong with me. And so that is the false self being created. There's something wrong with me. I've got to change everything about myself now. And I've got to become hypervigilant and I've got to watch. So we create a false self. And it's painful. And it has to be dealt with. We treat that false self as the truth. We treat that false self as the thing, the person that we are. And then we grow up and we compile that and we compile that and we compile that into a more fortified false self, while still wanting to get our goodies, while still wanting to get love, while still getting to get good grades, while still wanting to have our creativity expressed in the world. And we'll go through this, and then other bad things will happen, and then other amazing things will happen, and then more bad things will happen. At some point, that false self has to be shattered because it was false. It kept us from who we truly are. It kept us tethered to the interpretation of an experience. And just the mechanism of healing that is clearly instilled in the way the law of the world works, the law of the spirit works. There's a demand that everything that is not aligned with the truth must be shattered. If there's going to be a true fruition, a true absolute flowering and unfolding. And that's what we're doing here. That's why there are so many videos and so many books and so many teachings, so many online courses, so many opportunities to have a new understanding of what it means to be human being brought forth. This channel is just one of them. All the time that this false self is fortifying itself, and all the time that time is going by, the soul is being matured. Not consciously, though. We are getting there as well, where we're acknowledging, my soul is maturing in this episode, in this experience, in this shattering, in this illusion, mirage blasting experience. My soul is maturing. And what does it mean to have a soul that's maturing? It means that you're more capable of living in a way that you never even dreamed possible, that you have more power, that you have more wisdom, that you know how to react to life in a way that is not scary. You're not afraid. And if you are afraid, you become less and less afraid. So all of this is happening as your soul is maturing. That unassuming real self, slowly, sometimes bigly, moves forward and becomes more of of how you relate in the world. That real self, that true self walks with you more and more. All the while, a fortress after fortress after fortress being shattered. All the while. In every episode. And then it just becomes more and more conscious that that's what's happening. So the shadow falls away into old thinking. We know about that. We know about old thinking. We become accustomed to realizing the shadow self is a thought that we can now see and choose to discard. So some of this happens with concerted effort, spiritual counseling, conscious workshopping, conscious reading, conscious contemplation, and strengthening of the observer self. We become less and less enmeshed in the story that was created in the crayon holding days. And then sometimes there's spontaneous grace. I remember many years ago, I went to sleep really not consciously of working on anything, though I think and suspect that after a spiritual awakening, you're always working on something. Nonetheless, I woke up and it was one of the first thoughts that came into my mind was, you were so lovable. And it clashed with a belief I didn't even know I was holding in my subconscious, that I wasn't lovable. And I laid there, and it was so powerful and it was so strong that I really didn't have anything to argue with. There was no argument. And so even though I felt a split second of that clash between, I didn't even know I felt that, it dissolved and it melded or melted into a truth. Now there were other things that would come after that I would have to work on and meditate on and think, but that one was grace. That one was grace. And I'm wringing it dry. Which brings me to, in this journey of the fortresses crumbling, one of my best prayers has always been, I say always, probably not in the very beginning, because I thought it had to be more complicated than this, but shortly after, I should say, please help me. Please help me. When my mind couldn't come up with anything that was working anymore, when I had wrung the old tools dry, when I thought about it and it didn't take me anywhere, and I had reached the end of all the mantras that I could say, I knew that I'd done all I could do. And I started to say the words, please help me. And, sometimes they were even said whiny. I was a little whiny about it. And a little victim. Sometimes a little victim. In that whininess and in that victim, there was also surrender. There was surrender to something that was much bigger than I. There was a surrender to a love that had actually proven itself to me. There was a surrender to a force that was on my side. Please help me relieves the independence and the distance and the separateness that the shadow self created to survive. Please help me annihilates one of the most important principles of the false self, and that is, I am alone. Please help me brings about the experience of oneness. The experience of oneness, not the theory or concept of oneness, but the experience of it. As though you're walking in God's skin. That oneness is exactly what every soul is wanting in every lifetime. I talked last time about the Earth School, the lessons we keep talking about. It comes down to just that, knowing the truth of who we are. Though religion, organized religion, has added some barriers to the direct experience of the presence of spirit, that oneness, those barriers are actually strengthening mechanisms. If you think about it, religion has done us a great favor in many, many ways. Religion is like life. It gives us the opportunity to see what we don't want. That's very useful information. We see some of the discrepancies that do not match the heart, and we choose if that's what we want. When we see what we don't want, we go inside and we tap into that creative power that is ours. That creative power was just merely covered over by a self trying to survive in a world of humans who thought they were disconnected from source. Generation after generation, born into lovely families that do not know that they are connected to source. They are connected to survival. And they're connected to family, and they're connected to their church, and they're connected to their culture. And some of them, to some degree, know that they are connected to source. A lot of people don't. We find out that that power has always been ours. No one can take it from us ever again, grasp it from our truth. The secret of our true nature cannot be hidden anymore by those in power. Humans are poised to create something very different than the world has ever seen and ever experienced. I know you keep hearing and I keep hearing that we are living in a time where things are very different than they've ever been. And from what I know about history, I think it's probably true. In fact, I know it's true. I can't prophesy what's going to happen, but I can tell you that humans are going to continue to find their power. And it's not going to be through violence, and it's not going to be through manipulation. It's going to come from knowing who we really, really are. There is something inside of us that already knows. And what we do is we learn how to align with that more and more. And everything that doesn't fit that alignment doesn't get to play in our heads. Life in the 3D is about to get very, very interesting. The shiny trinkets of the world, the money, the things, the experiences, the distraction. And let me talk about the things. Think about, every little town, every city you drive through, storage units everywhere. Farmers building storage units so that they can make their land useful. So here we have, at least in the Western world, at least in the United States, we have storage unit after storage unit after storage unit after storage unit of things that house things. My personal belief is there's something wrong with that. Wrong meaning not sinful or that way, but disharmony. There's an imbalance there. There is a storing up of material things that you have to pay for to have. So you work to pay for things that you store. I understand the inclination to look at things as a way to offer the soul it's some solace, some relief from the mind's creation of disasters and sorrow and despair. I get it. I get it. It's an accepted norm. And it's just another sign of the pain that is yearning to be healed. So these treasures that are being housed in metal framed buildings, climatized, it's a sign that, something within the psyche of the human collective, at least here in the States, it's needing to be looked at, and it's needing to be healed. Anyway, there's an imbalance. We're out of homeostasis. The physical world has a lot to offer, and it's convinced us that it has a lot to offer, and it does. It does. The physical world has so much to offer us. It's such a gift to have a physicality. In fact, I will tell this story a number of times too. I was leaning over and smelling a flower all by myself, and I heard, and I mean heard, I wish I could do that. And there wasn't anyone there. And it taught me what it means that to have a physical form, I get the goodies. I get the seeing and the smelling and the touching and the tasting. I get to have that. And it can pull us into, those senses can pull us into thinking that the physical is our get-all, is going to be everything that is possible. And that shiny trinket causes a hard crumble. Being human is amazing. And I've heard all my life that being human is a gift, and it is. It absolutely is. It's a weird gift, but it's a gift. When we're focused on that treasure, though, that physical treasure, our spirit goes and hides behind, not hides behind, but retreats, because it's not going to compete. It's not competitive. It waits for our loyal return. We are returning to the spiritual. It's slow, but it's definitely there. I see it in every human I interact with, my clients, my friends, my acquaintances, the person in the grocery store. Real connection to love exists. That's spiritual. Real love towards ourselves exists. It exists. It's already there. Real discernment of what is important. It exists. It's known. It's there. It's inside of us. It knows. It exists. Real knowledge of people's intentions. That exists. That discernment exists. It doesn't have to carry any judgment with it. But it exists. You understand. You see where they are. You accept it. It's where they are. You might not become best buds with them, but you see them. You see where they are. Real strength and power exist. The real ability to see below the surface of the chaos exists, and that ability is going to be honed in the upcoming years. There really is something to having calm within the storm. There really is something to that. And that's already there. What it needs is nurturance. What it needs is focus. What it needs is pay attention to it. It's already there. The ability to be in the midst of chaos and be at peace is there. Real awareness of how the universe works. There are laws of the universe. There's real laws around how the universe works. And we as humans get to play in those laws. And the more we know what they are, the more fun it is to be a human being. Our capacity to hold this all while in the physical is growing. That's the capacity. You know, the last years, some would say since 2012, there has been a growing capacity and ability to hold the truth of spirit. It is taking the fortresses to crumble. It's taking the mirage to become seen and known, the illusions to be shattered. It's taking all that. What's replacing that, though, is the capacity to hold these truths and not be afraid. Our ability to move away from the physical focus and more towards spiritual focus is growing. We're living in a time where a much larger influence on our souls and our human minds from spirit is occurring. Spirit is beginning to get a word in edgewise. Sometimes we have to get back to basics. Please help me is basic. It's fundamental and it's powerful. Some of the most growth and healing we can experience is through the reapplication of fundamentals. Getting back to the basics. Closing our eyes and breathing consciously gets us there. Nurturing a relationship with spirit where you experience being seen, being heard, and being understood is more delicious than any amount of having things in a storage unit. The large house, the shiny trinkets. Please help me is a statement that says, I know you exist. I want a relationship with you. Please help me says, my human capacity to diverse lifetime is limited, but my connection to you, I sense, can change that. Please help me is, I've heard you knock on the door of my human consciousness, and I would like to answer the door. Can you help me? How? Can you help me to know how to answer that door? Can you help me? Please help me. We are all being drawn to the light. Go willingly. It's a lot easier. Just go willingly. Just go willingly. Let the fortress crumble. Let the illusion be seen for what it is. There is a true self living beyond the fortress. Please help me. Please help me. Thank you. I appreciate this time with you. I'm so glad that you're on this journey. I'm so glad that I'm on this journey. I'll see you next time.